start the webinar and make sure it's all right. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Arts Work to Empower and Engage Youth. We are live, some of us, at David's Harp Foundation in San Diego, California. And my name is Julie Baker. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I don't know the native land that we are on here in San Diego.
We are on the unceded land of the Kumeyaay people.
Thank you. And I should know that. My deep apologies to the Kumeyaay people. And we're so pleased that you're all here with us today. It's an exciting panel. We're going to start off with some amazing and inspiring youth. And then we're going to go to some incredibly powerful people who are change agents in the creative youth development and arts education sector and advocates. And I'm just here to say thank you to our sponsors for today's panel, which is Create California and the Claire Rose Foundation, and all of our other sponsors of Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month that we kicked off this morning here in San Diego with the mayor, Todd Gloria, and a number of wonderful council members and a great showing here in San Diego. And it is my great pleasure to introduce Dalouge Smith, who is not only a fantastic and longtime board member of Californians for the Arts, also the treasurer of California Arts Advocates, and the CEO of the Lewis Prize for Music. So thank you. And I'm going to scoot and have Kenneth join me.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Again, my name is Dalouge Smith, he, him pronouns, and we are honored to be broadcasting as well as gathering folks from around the state. We have a great panel here. Just a couple of little other items. Hashtag ACCM 2022. Please use it. Please promote it. This is the first day of Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month, which is a state designated month. Thank you to our legislature. And we have subsequently had our state legislature designate artists as second responders. So this month is so important for raising the visibility of our field, bringing awareness about the full value that the sector of the arts brings to California. We are focused in the coming month on empowering arts advocates to take action and spur greater investment in the arts and our creative industries and workforce. So today's webinar is the first of 5 webinars every Friday over the course of this month. And these webinars are all focusing on, I'm not looking at the camera, I'm looking at the screen. These webinars are all focused on areas where the arts are making California a stronger and better place to live and work. Upcoming webinars are Arts Work for Community Prosperity and Resilience, Social Justice and Racial Equity, Job Creation, Health and Healing. And it's totally appropriate that we're starting with the topic of arts work to empower youth and engage young people, because all of those other areas are dependent upon successful access and equitable access to the arts and arts learning and cultural heritage at a young age. So I'm excited to bring together our panel. We're going to have them introduce themselves in a moment. We'll start with a panel of young adults, hearing about their experiences and their reflections on their learning journeys as young artists. And then we'll shift to a policy conversation with some statewide advocacy and policy leaders. I want to also say thank you to the David's Harp Foundation for having us here. And we're actually going to get a glimpse into their studio in a moment between the two panels. So let's start with our introductions. I'm going to actually start with the young man that's here in the room with me, and then we'll proceed to the other 3 panelists. Kenneth, welcome. Will you please share your name, pronouns, and your art forms?
Yes. How's everyone doing? My name is Kenneth Charles Winfield Jr. No pronouns, and my art form is music. I'm a lyricist.
Wonderful. Verenice.
Hi, everyone. My name is Verenice Velazquez. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and my art forms are dance, music, writing, and a little bit of singing.
Beautiful. Cesar.
Hi, my name is Cesar. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am in San Diego my art form would be playing the violin and some other various instruments, maybe not so but much, but violin.
Thank you. And Robyn, our fourth panelist.
Hi, I'm Robyn. I go by she, they pronouns, and my art form is anywhere from writing to music to animation. I do podcasts, videos. I'm everywhere when it comes to creative forms.
Wonderful. So as everyone can hear, we are representing all of the art forms and young people's involvement with all the art forms. We're going to really get into their introductory experiences. So I'm not going to call you each by name. We'll just keep rotating. Maybe we'll start. I'll start with the first one and then you can pass it on to someone else. But Cesar, why don't we start with you, since I've actually known you since your very first musical experiences. Can you describe what opportunities were the first opportunities that you recall for developing your artistry and what that context was?
Well, first off, I would like to start with the first time I was able to actually hold a violin and play it. That was in my third grade. The San Diego Youth Symphony sent some representatives into my elementary school, and from there we were given this opportunity to play an orchestra, and that I think was very fun. I got to do my first performance within 6 months, I would say. I would say that was one of the main great opportunities that music has given me, being able to perform. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you want to pass it on to one of the others?
Sure. Anyone else? Sorry. Verenice?
Verenice.
Yeah. So I remember the first time I was in a community event hosted by my family and their loved ones from their hometowns back in Mexico. So I remember being surrounded, I was maybe 5 years old, surrounded by lots of taller people and me trying to copy my dad's dance steps. And so that's where I started. And eventually I started at Los Cenzontles Cultural Arts Academy in the dance classes as a 7-year-old. And so I remember Mondays was my class, and that was my very favorite day of the week because I had this class. And so dancing in my family's tradition and at Los Cenzontles were the beginning of my arts education.
Wonderful. Robyn, do you want to jump in here?
Could you repeat the question for me, please?
Sure. Just give us a little insight into your first experiences when you first started learning and developing your artistry, what that context was.
I live in a town or a city where there's not many like things that you can join into. It's just a bunch of small communities. And I really wasn't able to be in a community where I could express myself creatively until I was introduced to the MARZ project and the Ink people, where they teach us to further build upon our creativity and further teach us how to be creative and how to express ourselves in various ways.
And what age were you, Robyn, when that opportunity came to you? Or
That
you
was
got the opportunity to join the MARZ project?
That was really recent. That was when I was 15.
Okay. And then Kenneth, how about your story?
Well, for me, at about the age of 16 or 15 as well, it was more of a thing that I grew love for music within my community and the friends that I was sharing it with. I had a friend who used to rap, and we used to just play instrumentals, and we would just sit there rapping. And I seen that he was talented, and it was inspiring for me to learn the skill and also do and write my own lyrics.
Great. So this set of stories, I think, is so important because it really reveals the many different settings, the many different places where learning the arts, being part of a community of artists can take place. There is no one singular story of how anyone gets that experience or gets that opportunity. Would love to get a little bit of a sense for each of you, some key moments in your journeys as developing artists, like whether those are key sort of next steps. You really got a chance to realize, oh, I've progressed. Cesar, you were mentioning performance, the value that you put on that experience. So are there some other examples, things that you can really speak to that say, this is where I recognized I was progressing, or I recognized that this was taking me places I hadn't known I would get to go to? Robyn, do you want to start? You've been more recent in your opportunity building. Where have you started to see those growth opportunities happen?
The first time I saw any opportunity for growth, well, my mom introduced me to my creative side and taught me to love my creative side since I was very little. I've done, and since then I've made podcasts and videos, and my old school that I used to go to had STEAM classes that would rotate throughout the year. I learned my love for drama while I was there, and most recent step would be joining MARZ project, where they helped me further build upon everything I've worked on since then, or since I started being creative.
So it's really that combination of experiences keep accumulating into more and more, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Kenneth, how about you? Some kind of key moments of progress or development where you really saw that for yourself?
Yes, well, for me, I believe it was more where when I took it into my own hands to write my own lyrics and kind of just put it on an instrumental and see what people thought. I started networking and just meeting other people who made lyrics and made music as well, and kind of just figured out what making music took. And I realized that just the knowledge of knowing what I needed to do to produce my music was something that showed that I was developing.
So being around other artists actually was a developmental aspect of your own
Yes.
growth. Yeah. Cesar or Verenice, would one of you like to jump in here?
Yes, I would like to talk about my growth in Los Cenzontles Cultural Arts Academy and within my family's tradition. So Los Cenzontles is an organization that really focuses on participatory arts. And from dance, I eventually, in this small community organization, I started to pick up other instruments. The teachers would hand me other opportunities to take on. And that led me to assist in some of the dance classes as a young teenager. And from there, we started to go. I remember going to a lot of migrant education workshops and hosting arts workshops for different communities across California. And so as a young teenager, assisting in these classes and getting to meet these people was very, very eye-opening and just important in me understanding different communities. And so as I grew up, I also started to notice more of my family's traditions and how they relate to what I was learning at Los Cenzontles, and just seeing the special traditions that I was growing up with here in the Bay Area.
So it sounds like the opportunities to start sharing what you'd been learning was an important next step. And then as you continued to teach, you continued to learn, and it becomes a cycle where you're sharing with your community, both performance and in your learning and reteaching. How about you, Cesar? What are some kind of key developmental steps in your artistic journey?
Well, I think I hinted it at it the previous time I spoke. I did say I was part of San Diego Youth Symphony, but under that, the program that I was a part of was the Community Opus project. And the main thing of the Community Opus project was getting young students to perform, to enjoy performing. And that is, well, the main opportunity that I was able to get by being able to participate in art, getting to perform.
Fantastic. I'm going to slightly pivot here and ask you all about your artistic learning experiences in school and whether you have had those. Robyn, I know you're still in high school, so whether you do or don't have those currently, but would love to just hear what those opportunities have been and how long you stuck with them, or what that experience was like alongside these community experiences you've all been describing. Anyone like to go first?
Go.
Kenneth, thanks.
So yeah, personally for me, I didn't have the learning experience in school just because I feel they didn't have the genre of music that I was trying to learn. It was more of instruments and flutes and stuff of that sort. Whereas I was trying to figure out the computer equipment, and they just didn't have that. So I didn't personally learn my art through school.
How about the others amongst you?
So I started in band and in 4th grade in my school band, learning the flute. And I did that until 8th grade. I remember there was a year or two when the music programs were paused, and so I didn't play in the school band. And so that program compared to me and in Los Cenzontles program was different in that I didn't receive as much time during school or attention in the music practices to really, I think, develop the practice at school.
So you were saying you had more time with your Los Cenzontles learning, either more time in the week or more continuity over time, it sounds like.
Continuity, definitely.
Continuity. Cesar.
Well, I would say most of my learning I have gotten it from school, given that my art form being orchestra is more, I guess, common within those within the realm of school. Yeah, let's see. I started off in 3rd grade, as I said, so that would be about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Great. And Robyn, how about you? What's happening in your school now? You mentioned your previous school had drama.
I'm in MARZ project through my school. And when it was originally like more self-taught, learning from videos on YouTube or online in general, it's now learning with not just by myself, but with a group of people. And it's actually being taught instead of just learning.
So essentially you have some instructions. I just saw on the screen that there's maybe an issue with my microphone. Is that the case, Evan? Shall I grab Kenneth's for a second? Yes, should I grab Kenneth's? No. All right, I'm gonna keep going. These guys can hear my questions. Hopefully the next person will repeat my question as they hear it. Would love to hear about one or two standout relationships that you have developed as a result of your artistic growth, your artistic learning, whether that's with a mentor and a teacher, or with a peer, or with a student. And I know I didn't prep any of you for this question. This is the one question I added after we all did a little preparatory conversation. So anybody comfortable going first with this one?
I'll go.
Thanks, Kenneth.
So yeah, for me, this is kind of recent because through my art and through my music and the love that I have for it, I came across David's Harp, and they told me about what the program was and what they do here, and it made a connection because it's something that I was interested in, which is the studio engineering and the biz pod that they do. And that's what brought me here, because it's something that I love a lot the music, and they're giving me that opportunity.
Thanks, Kenneth. And I'm noting that you do keep your microphone closer to your mouth.
Okay.
I guess it was
Yeah.
you they weren't hearing as well.
Okay.
Verenice, Robyn, Cesar, any of you want to speak about relationships that have really stood out for you in your artistic growth?
I would say that a relationship is one that is flourishing right now. At the start of the pandemic, I started to take a verse class with a master artist in Veracruz, Mexico. So we're using the technology to connect, and we write verses, express anything that we would like to express in our verse writing. And now we have also invited a maestro from my family's tradition from the mountain ranges of Guanajuato, Mexico. And so just connecting with them, the two of them, as well as my peers in the class, sharing, writing, and creating verses is really meaningful. And I would like to share a verse that I wrote for today. And so just those connections are all really meaningful to me.
Yeah, please. Look forward to it. Did you just put this into the chat, or are you going to share it out loud?
In the chat, and I will read it out loud. So
Thank you.
with passion and sincerity, I share my stories today and the importance they each play in shaping my identity. Through them, I hold integrity to myself and the world every day.
Thank you. What a great contribution.
Thank you.
Robyn, Cesar, either of you want to speak to relationships? Go ahead, Robyn.
Other than I opened with saying that my mom introduced me to being creative first, other than her, my current mentors through MARZ project, Corey and Jay, have been not only great mentors and teachers, but also great friends along the way through my creative journey.
I think I have had the pleasure of having relationships done both above me, as in like mentors, as well as friendships, at my same level. Many of my teachers who have taught me throughout the years, I've held a good relationship with them. They've been able to teach me many things, not just about music, but about life in general. Being able to play music with my peers has given me this sort of sense of camaraderie with my fellow human beings. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I think that what's fascinating about all of your answers is that the relationships are about more than the art that you're describing. That the art is, in a sense, the connective characteristic, but there are so much more that you're finding through these relationships, is what I'm hearing. Do you agree? Am I hearing correctly?
Yes.
Let's shift for a second now to some other sort of reflective experiences or reflections that you may have. Wondering if there's any sort of experience that you have had that just stands out as something that you know wasn't going to happen unless you had undertaken an artistic pursuit, as you all have. Something where you know this only happened because I've been devoting myself to my art making over these number of years or days. I mean, probably years, but let's hear any starts there.
Yes, I would like to mention the Take a Stand program that if I remember correctly, I think was started sometime in 2017. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's this program where many musicians from around the country, and I think even from well, I'm not sure, but around the country got together in the first year. It was in Aspen, Colorado. we all got to practice and perform a few pieces, and this was a very coming together moment, sort of thing. And I'm pretty sure if I had not been a part of music, this sort of event would have not happened to me.
So great. It was coming together with other musicians in a new location. Does anyone else have a similar kind of experience, or maybe a different kind of experience that so stand out for them and will be a memory they carry for their lives?
Yes. So in 2016, which was the year or the summer right before entering university for me, I was able to travel with Los Cenzontles to Cuba on a cultural exchange trip. And just going to Cuba for us was huge. And so we went on a specific journey to exchange traditions and interact with the artists across the country in Cuba. And it was beyond amazing. I remember in one town, the town of Las Tunas, there was a tradition of poetry and repentista similar to the tradition of my family. So there were so many cultural connections being made. And I really think it's because of the art that I was able to witness all of this and experience it and meet the people that had similar traditions to me and to others. I write a little bit about it in a little piece that I'll share as well. And so the cultural exchange trip in Cuba was one, and just forming more cultural connections across the year through the arts, I think it has happened because of the art itself.
So it's similar to Cesar's in that you were coming together, discovering some similarities, but in your case, it was even cross-cultural, the experiences that you were having with each other. Thank you. And I'll just say that's a great article that you wrote. I encourage folks to take a look at it. Really speaks to the importance of arts as a connector across cultures, across nations. Kenneth or Robyn, either of you have something? And I've been prompted in the chat to re-ask the question. Any standout experiences that you're going to carry with you as an important memory? And I would never have had this if I hadn't participated in my art making.
Yes. So with my art making, it's brought me here. And by being here, they've been helping me with making something like a documentary on my life. And I honestly don't think I would have had that if I hadn't continued my passion for music and landing here. So that's something that it's done for me, and it's a great experience for me.
So it's not so much a memory that's been made, it's memories you're making right now.
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. But drawing upon the memories of your life, which is what art is so great at, right? Keeping us both in the present and the past simultaneously.
Yes.
Robyn, how about for you?
I met one of my best friends through two of the classes that I'm taking right now. But aside from that, music and podcasting and creativity in general has been such a huge skill and ability to have. It's helped me through some of my toughest times, figuring out ways to either distract myself or further improve myself. So without creativity and the arts and music and podcasting and videos and stuff like that, I wouldn't be who I am today at all.
I love about this arc of the 4 stories you've just shared is both the expansiveness of being in the world and the personalness of being with yourself. And I think that that's such an important constant parallel that's going on with art making and with the experiencing of art. It actually brings me to this next question, which is, you are all young adults at this point. You are all continuing to practice your art. And so would love to hear why that is. Why are you carrying this with you as a part of your everyday lives into your adulthood when it's not a class. There's not, you have to be now more self-motivated toward your art than you did when it was more your parents giving it to you, or your school giving it to you.
I'll go. Okay, so for me, what it is that the reason I keep carrying this music is because it's a way for me to share my story and get a message across to people that come from the same environment that I do or from similar struggles. And it also has helped me when I've been in my dark times or depression. It's helped me deal with it. And so it's like a coping skill, and it's a hobby to me now. And it's something that I just see myself doing forever, not only for myself, but for people who want to hear it.
Great. So it's for yourself and for the community.
Yes.
How about Robyn? Do you have some thoughts on this? Why you're pursuing and continuing to pursue?
My dream is to be able to be a full-time creator of content. I want to make podcasts, pictures, music, anything that can be like consumed by people. I want to learn how to and to make all these things for people to enjoy, because there's plenty of things that have, well, got me through my day-to-day life, like certain songs, certain stories, certain even games, that I want to be able to hand that off to more people and give them something to look forward to the next day, give them something to look forward to consume, give them something to just survive with.
So be a resource. You're being a resource for yourself and others. Yeah, thank you. And what I mean by that thank you is thank you for continuing to offer that out to the world. Cesar, Verenice.
In my situation, I just think that playing music is very enriching. Just arts in general are very enriching. They're as I was saying, in my situation, I am an engineering major, so sometimes the numbers get to be a little and so having a way to chill, to a way to a little segue back into a little more normalcy is always great and fun.
Fun. Got to keep the fun in it. Verenice.
I think arts is truly rooted in connection, whether it is to yourself or to others. And I feel like connection is something that we need more of. And so if we can, if I can continue to connect to myself and to others through the arts that I do, I think it's very meaningful and in the simplest way as possible, and also in any career role that I engage in. And there's always more to learn about different places, different people, different cultures, and continue this search for like understanding and just knowing different areas.
So you're just talking about living a good, wholesome, healthy life by being alive and present and in pursuit of yourself and relationship. That's wonderful. And how the arts make that happen for ourselves. I'm going to ask this next question that's now a little bit more to the present, even more to the present, but looking to the future. And just wondering how you are all thinking about, we actually heard a little bit from Robyn about how Robyn's thinking about art as a aspect of their education, but also career goals. And so would love to hear from others, or if Robyn, you want to go into a little more specificity on that. But how does the art play a role in your long-term career ambitions, or how does it not? And maybe why not? But why would you keep doing it but not doing it as a career?
Well, for me, I personally believe that it plays a big role in my life for the future, because I plan to leave a legacy. I plan to get across a message. Like I said, I just want everybody to know that there's more to life than what is promoted on a daily basis or what some people that come from my environment may know. And we're just boxed in, and I want them to know there's more than just what we've been taught. And I'm gonna leave a message through my music, and I hope to build a positive legacy.
So you're actually trying to show a pathway from experiences that you grew up with toward these kinds of opportunities, toward creative opportunities, and then where that can take you beyond.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. And that's going to be a great component for us to build on when we're having our conversation with the next panel. Cesar, Verenice, Robyn.
For me, it is really connected to my passion for urbanism and urban planning. That was my major in university. And from before I started the major, I think the arts already impacted my perspective and in all of the conversations around planning. And now, as I continue to learn about different communities and continue to participate in this very community-based arts practice, I think that I'm gaining more connections and more perspectives on how to integrate all of this learning into the planning field.
And before we step away from you, Verenice, can you tell us what you're doing now that you've graduated? You've graduated with an urban planning degree, but where are you actually spending your career hours right now?
Right now, I'm working at Los Cenzontles Cultural Arts Academy in San Pablo, California, the Bay Area. And I'm on the communications and development side of things, and really just a team member in any event planning or program planning that we have. And then also part of the touring group, just participating in the performances and practices.
Right. One thing that I think it's important to mention about Los Cenzontles is that the staff are the artists.
Yes.
And you are one of those.
Yes.
Cesar.
Well, I guess the role of art in my education, I want to say it's a way of it's gonna sound a little dramatic, of keeping humanity in me, I guess. I mentioned earlier I'm an engineering major, right? The problem if it's okay for me to mention this, I had a little insecurity with how to make a living with music, and I wish that it's not as difficult for other students, for the young students to make that choice between, or that it doesn't have to be a choice, you know, between following what you like, which is, you know, doing music, and you know, making a living out of it, you know. So I was unable to I was unable to do that choice. But yes, for me, it's going to be a sort of a hobby to be to continue, I guess, my musical friendships, I guess you could say.
And can you also describe for us how you are currently keeping music a part of your life in an everyday way, even as you're undertaking this engineering degree?
Right. Well, I have been performing with the San Diego State University Symphony Orchestra, as well as performing with a group of friends. Our little group is called Bambula, if you want to follow us on Instagram. And we perform around in cultural events. Actually, on April the 9th, we're going to be performing for an art an art museum opening in La Jolla called the Museum of Contemporary Art. So I'm still very much a part of the music environment, That's how I stay in touch.
Well, and I'll just mention for folks that don't know this, the Museum of Contemporary Art in La Jolla has been undergoing a huge expansion and renovation. So performing at their grand opening is a marquee opportunity. Congratulations. Robyn, anything you want to add to this question about career goals and the relationship between your creative life and your career?
I don't really want my creative life and career to be separate. I want them to be one and the same. Even if I can't reach my dream of being a full-time content creator, I mean, I just recently turned 16. It's time for me to start getting a job. And even if I can't have that dream of being a full-time content creator, I'm going to make sure that my job has some way for me to be creative. I'll apply as a barista so I can make people their morning coffee, which is creative and fun. I'll be a graphic designer for business. I can make and help promote them while still being able to practice my creativity. They're going to be the same life for me.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue for our next panel, because we're really going to focus on these issues that you all are raising in terms of how do I have a creative life and have it be a career? What are the pathways? What are the ways in which I or my peers can even learn what those pathways are? Would really love to open it up for one last moment. If any of you have questions for each other, if you heard something and you are just wondering, can you elucidate that a little bit further? Not a requirement, but just want to offer that up as an option.
I was wondering, Robyn, what kind of what kind of content, what kind of podcasts you would be making if you wouldn't mind, leaving some way of knowing where to see where you might post this content.
I have 3 podcasts at the moment. One of them is a creative role-play adventure played through D&D. One of them is based around the fictional SCP Foundation. I do readings based off of people's creative writing. I help share people's creativity and credit them for it. And I have a podcast where I just interview some friends. In fact, I interviewed a friend who made a web development program, and it went well. You can find all of my podcasts and stuff at my website, which, am I allowed to give that out? Or
Sure, let's go ahead and have you all of you could put something into the chat, sharing with folks where they can find your work. Kenneth, maybe the team here at the David's Harp Foundation can help you do that once you're off screen. That'll be great. So we're actually really at our segue point. Thank you all. And what we're going to do to transition, well, first, let me mention one last thing. So you all are going to stick around, I hope. And as we have this next conversation, if there's a point at which you want to come back on screen and ask a question directly of the second panel, please do that. I'll be able to see that you've turned your camera back on. Kenneth, you can wave at me and we'll bring you back over. But that way we also have an opportunity for you to ask directly what it is that you might want or hope that these folks who are working across the state can do to make these experiences and opportunities easier for you, your peers, younger folks to access. So don't hesitate to come back and prompt with your own questions. We're going to now shift actually to Joseph Mack. He's the director of programs at at the David's Harp Foundation. He's just going to give us a really quick overview of their facility here. It's actually still under construction. They've just moved in, but I think it's important to recognize that young people need to have access to the highest level of equipment and human support, mentor support in the work that they're doing. Kenneth, as has been mentioned, is one of the young, what do you guys call yourselves here? One young intern. You're an intern. Thank you. A young artist. I was going to say one of the young artists here. And so I'm going to pass it off to Joseph. And then when he comes back, we'll also acknowledge our two young videographers that are working with us today on behalf of their BizPod program here. So Joseph Mack, can you?
All right, am I on? I'm here? All right, perfect. Thank you, Dalouge and the youth panel. That was so amazing, super impactful. My name is Joseph Mack. I'm the Director of Programs here at the David's Harp Foundation. And you're actually looking at our facility, brand new, that was just created. Little background story. Back in 2009, Executive Director Brandon stepped out on faith, quit his corporate job, and built a recording studio inside his dad's garage. Fast forward 10 years later, and here we are in a brand new facility, specifically created for young people to be creative in our community. There's a podcast studio right behind me. There's Studio A, live booth. This couch setup is where young people actually come into our studio and check in. And then right behind our cameraman are more studios and more spaces. So we're extremely excited. As you can see, you probably will see a paintbrush or a screwdriver. That's credit to Uncle Steven, who is part of the Electrical Workers Minority Caucus that has been extremely supportive for our mission and what we do here for young people. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, Julie Baker's joining me, and we've got our next panel is going to come on screen. They're all going to turn their cameras on, and while they're doing that, I just want to say thank you to Gabe, who is here manning the zoom in up close camera, and Anthony is out in the rest of the area helping. He just shot Joseph on the video and is supporting the team in the booth. So another example of young people getting hands-on direct experience, developing their creative skills and creative relationships. All right, let's start with some introductions here. I'm going to let each of you directly introduce yourselves. They've all met Julie Baker, who is our executive director at Californians for the Arts. Nurit, let's go to you. And again, name, pronoun, locations.
Name, pronoun, location. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, I am Nurit Siegel-Smith, she, her, hers. I'm usually speaking from Los Angeles, California, on the traditional lands of the Tongva people, but today I come to you from the lands of Las Vegas tribe of the Paiute Indians. And I'm the executive director of the Music Forward Foundation.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Allison.
Hi, everyone, and I just want to thank the kids. Well, they're not really kids, the young adults for sharing their experience. It was really meaningful, and I took lots of notes that we can talk about today. I'm Alison Frenzel. I'm the Education Program Specialist at the California Department of Education that supports all arts, media, and entertainment career tech ed programs in the state of California, as well as secondary arts. Pronouns she, her, and I'm in Sacramento, which is the land of the Miwok and Nishinan people. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Abe, you are our third panelist.
Hi, everyone. I'm Abe Flores. I'm the policy director for Create California. My pronouns are he, el, and I am logging in from Los Angeles, the land of the Tongva.
So I want to actually share just a couple of statistics and then use those alongside the stories of the young folks that we've just heard from for our dialogue. And this first set of statistics is just to set some context and then have you all reflect on, okay, here's where we are in our area of the arts learning ecosystem, and here's how we approach this. First of all, I don't know if you've all heard this, but in the last week, the news has come out that 1 million fewer students have gone to college in the past year since the beginning of the pandemic. So the past 2 years, 1 million fewer. And we know that college enrollment has a lot to do with lifelong earning, not learning, but lifelong earning. And we also have very limited information on the availability of arts education across the country. The sort of most substantial data that we have is from the National Endowments for the Arts. It's longitudinal data from 1982 to 2008. And what they found in their audience participation surveys, which they were doing every 10 years, between 1982 and 2008, so essentially a 30-year period, the change in access to arts education across 3 different racial demographic groups went like this. White students had 59% access in 1982, and that dropped to 58% access in 2008. Black students had 51% in 1982. That dropped to 26% in 2008. Hispanic students had 47% access, and that dropped to 28% access in 2008. So I'm sharing that because the disparities are so extreme, and any conversation about policy related to arts learning has to be attentive to that. And we talked about that a little bit in our preparatory conversation, but just wanted to give our audience a sense of the drasticness of this situation, because any potential for equity, not only in arts learning, but also in the creative economy, is really dependent on all young people having equal access to these arts learning experiences. So you each play a different role in the arts learning ecosystem. And I think it's important to help our viewers understand what those different positions are. Some of you are in policy roles, some of you in advocacy roles, some of you in industry. So let's hear a little bit about that. Any one of you can start with where your role is and how that is kind of positions you to work on this issue. Let's go with Allison. You're in the Department of Education. That's the mothership, so to speak.
Sort of, you would think. But we have this thing in the state of California. So just for the audience here, I'm speaking not as an advocate, but just kind of from the policy side and from the government perspective. And so I have to be really smart and careful around that line. But I am very thankful for all of the arts advocates here on the line, and I will toss it to them for their advocacy perspectives. So just in some context, the California Department of Education gives funding to local districts, and it's the local control funding formula, right? And so each district has the decision-making power on how those funds are spread and allocated. And so with local control, the state cannot mandate how those funds are spent, right? It's something that is district by district. And what we often see in the state of California with 977 autonomous districts, decisions are made based on priorities of individuals who, run committees and whatnot. There's surveys that go out to families and communities, but the schools that tend to receive the most arts education are those in affluent areas with very robust ed foundations that families contribute to. So arts education is often, even though it is in our ed code, and at the state level, ed code mandates a well-rounded education, including the arts. It's the most very expensive, and in many cases, one of the first things to go in times of budget crisis, which is horrible and ironic, because that's one of the things that engages learners and makes them want to stay in school, and yet it's always the first thing to get cut in times of budget crises. So what I am able to do in my role is be there for what we call technical assistance to schools and districts that want to do creative things with the arts. I also have some specialized program funding, and a lot of my work revolves around working with creative communities and organizations and industry to help support schools in making it easier through partnerships. So I'm going to go ahead and toss it to Abe, because one of the things that Create California has done, and actually it's helped with that data gap, Dalouge, that you mentioned before, is the Data Arts Project. And so I think he might be able to speak a little bit about work with that project and how it interfaces with our work.
Yeah, so my space, to answer your question, Dalouge, it's the advocacy and policy space. And for us, that means monitoring and trying to pass legislation that benefits the arts, advances the arts, as well as education as a whole, related issues. Building public will and awareness of the state of the art. So the data project is something that we've used, but also here in California, we don't have access to elementary data, which has been an issue, is something that we've been trying to address. We don't only have a really good understanding of secondary access, but not elementary access. There is no mandate to collect that information, something that we're working hard to do. But even with the secondary data, you clearly see the disparities based on basically zip code and the community's wealth. The other big piece for us is organizing and mobilizing, making sure that folks are connected, are receiving the information, and can advocate locally, because there is a mandate for arts ed, but at the same time, school boards are responsible for the curriculum that is adopted in their school district. So in the sense, they monitor themselves. So we need local advocates at the hyper local level to go to these school boards, talk about the state of the arts, talk about the importance of arts education, and basically ask for it to become a priority and make the case that how it fulfills a lot of the objectives that they have, as well as creating resources. That's the other big piece of how do you go about investing in planning for arts education, and also what are the creative careers? One of the things that we're launching later this month is the Creative Career Portal, which will help students and families, counselors, anyone who's interested in navigating, having an understanding of, and connecting to creative careers. So for us, really, again, the big buckets in the advocacy space is developing, advancing legislation and policy at the local and state level, increasing awareness and public will for arts education, and organizing and mobilizing advocates like the folks who are here.
Great.
I'll jump.
Nurit, take us where you go.
Excellent. I'll give you a little history on Music Forward as well. To contextualize it, we were birthed as out of the House of Blues, as the International House of Blues Foundation nearly 30 years ago. Initially focused on African-American impact on art and culture, we bridged communities into that vibrant landscape of Black music and art. And we're still rooted in this and have legacy programs connected to this. But about a decade ago, and now as Music Forward, we pivoted into workforce development and laser focused onto access and opportunity into the music industry. And now we're part of not only the House of Blues family, but also the Live Nation Entertainment family, where we inspire ambition, create momentum, and redefine what's possible for young people and the industry we serve. We really want to also redefine what arts education is, and working closely with Allison and Abe on that redefinition of that too. Our partnership between Music Forward and a public benefit organization and Live Nation, a corporate entity, helps us identify a clear picture of the roles, competencies, and soft skills needed to successfully create those opportunities. And really building those spaces now to bridge community to the industry. And I even love the connection that Cesar and Robyn had on starting to connect and bridge youth to each other, right? And finding their, as we call it, their tribe around them so that they can grow and expand together. I believe that these partnerships, the education, right? Government, social sector, corporations, all together advocating for a brighter and thriving future is what we need for all of our young people.
So we've got some snaps from Julie over here. I would love to sort of step back and reflect for a minute on what we did here. Nurit, you just were mentioning a couple of things that we heard from Cesar and Robyn, but from all of you, what really stood out during this dialogue or this question period that I had with the panelists, the youth adult panel? What were things that you picked up that you want to really highlight as an important lesson for the work that you're all undertaking?
If I could jump in, I think the need for relationships. I think of, I grew up in Boyle Heights, predominantly lower income, Spanish speaking. So I kind of relate to a lot of the youth that we heard. Is we don't have that social capital that a lot of affluent kids have. We don't know the system because nobody immediately around us is part of that system. So we don't know how to navigate it. We don't see a lot of people that look like us. So then there's that confidence of like, can I from this community actually go into these fields? Because I don't see that many people. So really, a lot of the work is building those relationships, building those networks, and finding adult mentors that look like us to help us understand what the system is, to navigate, and to give us a pep talk, because a lot of times from these communities, we're juggling a lot of different things. So there are a lot of barriers, that things like transportation, things like needing to have a job because you need to have that income. And so unpaid internships, for example, are something that are a huge barrier. So that's why I love, and I just want to make sure that Allison gets to talk about her amazing work, but the importance of mentorship, of network building, building social capital, and being aware that poverty brings a lot of very unique barriers that need to be addressed.
And I'll jump in, and Nurit and I can tag team on this, but this is, oh, sorry, Dalouge, were you gonna ask another question, or did you want us to go?
No, keep going, keep going.
Okay, so it's funny because when one of the students was talking about the importance of relationships, I had written that down, and I wrote down what Abe had just said as well. And to explain what Abe's talking about, one of our huge initiatives at the state level right now are to literally change the pipeline or pathway from school to career. So it makes sense, making sure communities that are under-resourced and might not have the knowledge of the fact that some of these incredible jobs in the arts exist need that information. How do we do that in a public education system that cuts the arts instead of funds it? Well, we have to think differently about the school to career pathway. And we need to activate our community partners like the Music Forward Foundation to solve. We have to find solves. We can't continue to just complain about it, right? And so what we're doing, the solve, and I'm going to credit Julie Baker and the work done around SB 628 here. The Creative Workforce Act of 2021 designated the creative workforce as a state priority in California. And something that did in career technical education spaces, where you always need to justify funding around regional workforce priorities. And the arts are centralized in certain cities, but it's a virtual global industry, but that doesn't fit the mold of career tech ed funding. So often we'll see our rural communities lose funding or have programs cut because there's no regional workforce demand. But now that the state workforce priority is creative workforce, we can start thinking differently about building sustainable initiatives. No more unpaid internships. Remove, and I hate to say this because I'm a true believer in education and in college, but I do not believe that a degree should be a barrier to entry. I believe a college education should enrich a human and give them all of the developmental and academic tools they need to be like successful in life. But the degree should not be the barrier to a job, because that has created a major equity gap. And so what we're doing in California and beyond is creating a registered apprenticeship initiative to offer students, especially students who are talented and have incredible opportunities, just not there present. We're building those opportunities in schools that don't necessarily have them right now, and mapping those opportunities into work. Paid work through registered apprenticeship, which is a tried and true model in every other industry, and we are just getting started. So this idea of being able to work for a living wage while learning is that next iteration of what needs to happen in education, in my opinion, in my very humble opinion. Nurit, I'm going to toss that to you.
No, I think that we're all sort of saying, how do we break the barriers of poverty, race, and gender into the creative economy? And I will use the music industry as the industry that we're focused on, right, at Music Forward. And I love the work that we're doing with Allison, because it is creating that pathway, that pipeline, by reverse engineering, by really identifying the roles and the jobs, finding those competencies, and And then making sure that when young people are exploring careers in middle school, they're starting CTE training in middle school, that they are being exposed to all the different opportunities and all the career pathways for them, then giving them the preparedness, right? All of the career preparedness, including the mentorships in that space. And then, of course, giving them those workforce opportunities right out of school or with their capstone projects at, in the high school area, that they're already finding those connecting points, at the same time learning about themselves. These are my skills. These are my characteristics. I'm building skills in communication and collaboration and cooperation and connection, right? Those connecting points along the way, so that they're really finding themselves linking into jobs and opportunities that resonate for them.
I want to share with you that especially as Allison was speaking about the fact that a college degree should not be a barrier, Gabe, who's sitting behind the camera over here, was just nodding his head so vigorously. So you've got an endorsement right there for that statement. And I think I'll just share an anecdote. We had a teaching artist when I was leading San Diego Youth Symphony who gave up being a musician to go into coding. He didn't get a degree in coding, but I think it's ironic that these other contemporary technology fields are recognizing that you just need the skills to get there and do the work. And the creative economy needs to catch up on that front as well. Let's pivot a little bit to this initiative that you have underway in terms of just the details of how is this going to roll out, and not just in the context of schools, but also in community partners. I understand that David's Harp Foundation is a partner through their partnership with the local court school system. So Allison, I'm not sure if you're the one that should start on that, or if Abe should first go with a little bit more about the portal. You guys decide the sequencing of naming the next steps for this build out of the pathways.
I could do it very, very quickly. So the portal will soft launch at the end of the month. So the ask is go to our website. I'll drop it in right now. Sign up to our newsletter, and once it's live, we will be sending an email, and you can access that. And this is primarily for youth, but also families and counselors, anyone who's interested in creative careers and finding opportunities and the pathways, as well as videos from folks in the field talking about their experience and their career trajectory. So sign up for our newsletter. It will be the call to action for that one.
And so I'll chime in. I dropped in the chat. The portal will be living as part of Gladio, which is an incredible career awareness and exploration platform for different career paths, including the arts. So we're building out a specific creative careers portal within Gladio. For awareness and exploration. And so with registered apprenticeship, which is a tried and true model, and I say that because I believe in it, and it is a recipe that combines on-the-job learning with related and supplemental instruction. So you're actually getting that hands-on experience that allows you to excel in a job without the necessary fear of getting fired. Instead, you're getting mentored and coached until you meet the competencies. And so this is something that's a different model that has been controversial in education. Are those benchmarks? This is competency-based education. This is not move along because you've sat in a seat for a certain amount of years or hours or whatever. So I'm very excited about it. The initiative is a youth apprenticeship initiative. It's a partnership with the Division of Apprenticeship Standards in our Department of Industrial Relations and with the California Department of Education to increase practical, hands-on paid learning experiences for students and young adults in California. When we talk about youth here, we speak, the age is 16 to 24. That's our target demographic. Yet, it is open to all. Once an apprenticeship is registered with the state, anybody can enter that space by working with the program sponsors. We've done it in a very kind of unique way here. I'm calling it a consortium model, where we wanted to take the burden, we, meaning all the partners involved, including Nurit, wanted to take the burden off of employers, because when you get into a government approved program, what it does is it sets a standard of quality, right? You're meeting certain requirements so that you've got that stamp of quality assurance and approval, but it also requires a lot more kind of like lift on the end of paperwork and reporting and administrative oversight. And so what we did is we wanted to create a model that was a consortium based model. So the employers could just work directly with a program sponsor. A program sponsor functions like an intermediary. They're the ones that provide the mentorship, the coaching, the portfolio review, okay, here's our employer pool. So they work with the employers, and here's your candidate pool. Let's make sure you're going in the direction that meets your needs, candidate or student or trainee, and matches your skill set, so that you're setting people up for success and then creating this extra level of mentorship through our nonprofit partners and intermediaries like Music Forward Foundation. And big shout out to David's Harp. Yes, one of our school pilot programs is at the San Diego County Office of Education's Juvenile Court and Community School. And David's Harp has a robust relationship, and Brandon's going to be getting a call from me in like the next week about how we link this into the registered apprenticeship, because they're already doing it. And that's the thing. A lot of these companies and organizations are already doing this, but without the stamp of approval, so to speak, you're not eligible for all the government funding that's out there to help support it, help support the development of this initiative. So that's what we're trying to do.
And I just want to emphasize again that the reason there is government funding is because the words art and entertainment go into the policies. Why is there an opening? Why is there a team now at the California State of Partnerships? Because arts and entertainment has now been identified as a priority, right? And it's all connected, and it's so critical that we continue to advocate for this as a group around it. I also wanted to bring up, and I don't know, Dalouge, if I'm taking us in another direction, but I know we spoke about, these are folks, we're feeding into the education system, but there are vulnerable youth all around that some are system connected with homeless shelter or juvenile detention centers, and then some are not. I keep wondering, where are those million kids that didn't register for college? Where are they, and how do we get connected to those folks too? But ensuring that all young people have access to these programs is going to be a responsibility of ours to ensure.
Yeah, and Nurit, I really appreciate you bringing that up, that there are many, many places where young people are. We heard that from our panel, right? They are in a whole range of different learning spaces. They are learning alongside their peers. They're learning in settings like the David's Harp Foundation or other creative youth development programs. And I think one thing that I've witnessed over the years is that the largest entities tend to have the most practice at engaging with these government systems. And as a result, they find themselves easily able to get in the queue and get access to those funding, learn your language, Dalouge, and they smaller organizations, the community-based organizations, the community-based arts organizations, the creative youth development organizations, they don't have the infrastructure. They really need that kind of intermediary support that you were describing. And so how that education happens, how that access happens for them, because we know from, for example, at the Lewis Prize for Music, that young people want to be where they feel safe, and they want to learn where they feel safe. And feeling safe does not often or always occur in the more traditional or institutional settings. So how that gets bridged, how those safe spaces get bridged to these opportunities, I think is as much of the problem to be solved as having the opportunities available.
Yeah. Oh, I just wanted to mention really quickly, because the stats that you mentioned earlier, Dalouge, about arts education, there's also statistics with the correlation of police in schools as well, right? The more police, the more funding that went to the police, the less for the arts. I think a number of us have seen some of these charts as well. What are our priorities? Clearly, right?
Yeah, and
Absolutely. Okay.
I want to also just state what you were just speaking to is the exact arts to work model. So the I always screwed up. This Alliance for Media Arts and Culture international organization launched the first ever registered apprenticeship initiative in the nation and is very active in other states. They've earned the MIT award. The Arts to Work model is about activating and supporting community-based media training centers, and making sure that institutionalized feel is not the only way for students to learn. That there are these smaller community-based organizations that have the resources to launch this work and are supported. And I want to emphasize also that the work we're doing with the creative registered apprenticeship initiatives. Oh, hey, Wendy. She's here. Brandon, that's who I will be introducing you to soon. So one of the things that we are working on is building this apprenticeship initiative both inside of schools, but also in community-based centers, because it is true that is the only way to make it truly equitable. There is not a CTE or an AME. Oops, I just threw my phone. There's not an arts, media, and entertainment career tech ed program in every school, right? So we need to actually make sure those same opportunities are mapped into community centers and into other places that can replicate the same education, but outside of the school day. So that's also equally as important to this work.
Yeah, and that was actually one of my other takeaways from the youth panel earlier, just access to state-of-the-art training and technology. Not everyone has that. And I ran after school programs in my last position. We're a community-based organization. We're looking for partners. I want people, come. I had nonprofits come and we'll give you a space. You have a grant. We have the kids. We need those resources. So I know that I was not the only one. So reach out to your community-based organization who's running after school programs. If you have a program, they have the kids and they need that support. They need that technology. They need that expertise, because I'll speak for my organization. We're pretty scrappy. And it is really, really difficult to start these programs on your own and write the grants and get the expertise. But we have the kids and we have the space. So I would say that's another call to action. Reach out to your local after school program and see how you can partner with them.
I'm wondering if we can pivot just slightly and just talk about the future, what's coming next, right? You've given us a really deep dive into new opportunities that are being built right now, opportunities that have occurred because of some new legislation, SB 628, the Creative Workforce Act. But what's next? Because we know that there's more that will be needed. And if any of you want to sort of jump on that first, or you want me to ask about some specific things, I can do that.
I would say the top one is the Arts and Music in Schools Funding Initiative, which will provide up to $900 million specifically for arts throughout California, and with more money going for underserved communities. So if there is one thing, that would be it. Know it, support it, share our content, and have your friends and family all support it as well.
And one
And
more.
Abe, everyone that's a voter in California gets to help make that decision. Is that correct?
Exactly. This is a statewide ballot initiative. Looks like it's about to get all the signatures it needs, and should be on the ballot in November. So again, sign up for our stuff, share what it does, spread the word, and make sure your friends and family are supporting that and are aware of what it does.
And just something to add on about the ballot. Go ahead, Dalouge.
No, Allison, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this talk with the local control funding formula and how the state doesn't actually get to allocate arts education dollars because that would be considered a categorical. What this ballot measure will do is carve out categorical fund. Well, we don't like to use that word. We'll carve out specialized funds that can only be used for arts education. So they can't be moved or touched in any other space. The other thing with that is that they are not adding taxpayer dollars. It's coming out of existing education funding. So it's really just carving away something that's protected like career ed funding. Julie, is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say it doesn't create new taxes.
No,
but
there's no new taxes.
Which of course is a very important point for a ballot measure. But I was also going to throw in a very important thing, and Dalouge knows this because yes, our organization, California Arts Advocates, also worked on SB 628, the California Creative Workforce Act last year, which is really exciting, as Allison has stated, in terms of saying that creative workforce development is a state priority. And we know that language is very, very important, and laws are mostly often about language and establishing language and statute. However, what that also said was that that bill is upon appropriation. In other words, it's upon a budget allocation. And so this year we ask advocates to join with us in fighting for an appropriation for SB 628, the California Creative Workforce Act. Senator Ben Allen from Santa Monica is the author of that bill and will be introducing a budget ask for $50 million so that we can launch that program through the California Arts Council in collaboration with workforce development, and see these career pathways and people who face barriers to employment in the creative industries be able to access these programs with a living wage. And that is such a critical piece of what I think we're all fighting for this art sector.
Yeah, and what's next in our world is to activate these programs we're building. So we're also, just for the audience to know, the idea is true alignment with public education and creative workforce opportunities. So the competencies we were speaking of for apprenticeship will be mapped into our CTE program as the model curriculum standards. So industry is informing what's being taught in school so that those students will be ready for those jobs. So that's part of it. And bringing in this ecosystem, which we overuse in our world because that's really what it is, of community college partners, nonprofit partners, media training centers, registered apprenticeship program sponsors, and really creating that collaboration and collective impact work. So we just finally got the Arts to Work 2 tracks for registered apprenticeship are ready to be activated in California, and we're going to be doing that as this year progresses. And Wendy dropped the link in the chat. We have a current just received DOL approval for the first ever registered apprenticeship for animation, game, and visual effects artists. So that is now an official apprenticeship. And Nurit and I are working on a big initiative for both live events and stage and screen production. We need to come up with a quick way of saying that. So we will have the ducks in a row here in the next, hopefully, 6 months, and we'll be seeing a lot of progress there. And you will know how to plug in because they're public initiatives. So
For sure. I think one of the things that we're really aiming for too is some research on demystifying, analyzing, and presenting music education and music workforce development opportunities. So working with a group of national funders as well to make this happen, for community to be able to look at this and know where the opportunities are, where the CBOs are that are leading, where the programs are, but then also for civic leaders and for the dollars coming through to be able to know where to put and where the opportunities are to create that pathway. So I think there is some demystification that still needs to happen. That these are viable career pathways, that it can lead to, a vibrant life, and for both parents, teachers, and for civic leaders to understand that these are amazing paths and inspiring paths for our young people.
The thing that is really standing out to me as you all describe these opportunities, these potentials that we have, is that just as we started this conversation, learning about where you all sit in the arts learning ecosystems, that really everybody is in a position. Everybody's in an ecosystem position, whether that's at the local level, working as a parent, trying to influence the education that's in their district, be involved in the LCAP designations, et cetera, or they're in a nonprofit space, they're already an arts educator and needing to fold in these CTE elements into their work, that this is really going to be a whole field initiative at every step. It's not like we get to one success point and it's all been done, that every success point actually opens up more work in all of the ecosystem spaces. Some really quick kind of wrap up moments here. Just ask one more time for you to put into the chat the links people should go to just stay involved, stay educated. We'll put the Californian Arts Advocates link in there as well.
Slides, actually.
And we've got a slide that'll come up. Also want to just let folks know it's been a little hard to track the chat. So if you put something in there and we didn't reference it, it's really because we're
Actually, I think Team Tracy and Eduardo have been tracking the chat, so you're good.
See, everything's happening.
It's all coming together here in San Diego. And Nurit, I loved seeing your son jump in the background. I could tell you're like, oh no, but no, this is what we're talking about. This is how we work. We've got a young kid, a very young team member, Verenice, who's a year old, who's been with us on our team.
First Arts, Culture, Creativity Month event.
Right. Her venture to San Diego and extending our team. We're multi-generations, but it's terrific. And I just want to thank Dalouge for taking this first panel. We have 5 panels in 5 webinars in the month of April for Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month. And thank you so much for being the host extraordinaire, the moderator, and pulling all of this together and thinking how this could work with having our incredible 4 young adult panelists who are so inspiring. And I'm looking at Kenneth as I'm saying this. So, and then to our incredible esteemed leaders, Nurit, Allison, Abe, Create California, and all the folks that are on the chat who I know are working in this sector as well. And I'm excited this is recorded because we know Friday at 5 p.m. it might be a little challenging to get people to check in on a panel discussion. And so we're grateful for everyone who did show up here today. And I'm just going to ask Eduardo, who's behind the scenes here, if he would just share a couple of screens, if I could, to share with you kind of what's coming up next and how you can engage.
Thank you, Julie.
Of course.
Thank you, Californians for the Arts, so much for all the whole team for everything that you guys do. Thank you. Thank you, Dalouge.
Thanks, Nurit.
Abe and Allison.
You.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
She's heading out. She's going to have fun in Vegas. So if you could advance the next slide, Eduardo, that would be great. And we'll just give you a quick, this is our theme for the month of Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month. The arts work to heal, to advance justice, to build community, to create jobs and empower youth, which of course is what we were talking about today. And you can, come and engage on all of these different pillars. And if you can advance the next slide, that would be great. And then I can continue to share what we're doing here. This is the next 4 Fridays. We will have more panels and more webinars. Next week is the arts work to build community prosperity and resilience. We have an amazing panel put together that I think I'm just so excited about. Roberta Bedoya, Vanessa Wang from the city of Oakland talking about the Cultural Strategist program. We've got a planner coming from Mariposa County, rural community, talking about how you can interact in infrastructure dollars, and so many other fabulous people on that panel. The arts work to advance social justice and racial equality. We'll be featuring people from Homeboy Industries and Jason Chu, and we'll be talking about a bill that Congresswoman Lee will be introducing about anti-racism through the arts. And then we've got April 27th, that I can't see, so I can't remember what's happening on April 22nd, which is the arts work to create jobs. And then the final one is the arts work to health. That's right, to heal. Thank you. It's 5 o'clock. It's been a long day here in San Diego, but thanks everybody. So that's our webinar series coming up, and it's all free. The other way that you can engage in Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month is, of course, go to our website, californiansforthearts.org. You'll see right there, Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month. You can download or activate a toolkit where you can share social media, you can write an op-ed, you can get your own proclamation, you can do a press release, so many different ways to engage. And then finally, there's Arts Advocacy Week, which is April 25 through 29, where you can meet with your elected officials, share with them the importance of the arts in your community and what they need to do to invest in the arts in order for us to have these programs, not just one-time funding, but sustained funding for the arts. That is what's going to be the game changer for all of us to be meeting the goals of what we talked about today. So young adults have career pathways into this incredible industry, that we can see the hope and healing that it brings to young lives and to all of our lives, and that we actually invest in it to make this successful for the state of California, because the future of California, Dalouge, is creative. I think there's next slide is just to quickly. We're also so excited. This launched today. There are about 100 submissions by the pillars that we talked about from artists and arts organizations across the state that submitted all of these wonderful examples of how the arts work to heal, to build community, to create jobs, to advance social justice, and to engage youth. So we invite you to go check that out, because it is so super cool. And I think there's one other slide here, and then I think we're done. And so here's Arts Advocacy Week, and that's how you can engage there. And we talked a little bit about that already. And then one more, I think, is in there. We should, one more slide, I think, maybe. There it is, which is, we hope that you'll join us as members. We are a nonprofit organization, Californians for the Arts, and we work really hard to do this work, to build advocacy networks across the state to advance arts, culture, and creativity, to engage you in advocacy, to give you the tools and the resources to be successful advocates for your local communities to engage in the arts. And then, of course, we also have a lobbying side of our game, where we also ask for arts organizations to join us as members of California Arts Advocates. And of course, we couldn't do any of this without the sponsors. And so we're so grateful to all of our sponsors for Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month, which is the entire month of April in the state of California. So it is April 1st, no fooling. This is Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month. So thank you so much, Dalouge. Thank you to our panelists. Thanks to everybody here in San Diego that's brought us such warmth and welcome.
And thank you to the David's Harp Foundation team for their fantastic hosting of us and broadcasting with us today. Really appreciate putting young people to work to do this work with you and for you.
Thank you, David's Harp Foundation. And we'll see you guys soon. That's a wrap. Thanks, everybody.